Hello, my name is Alex, and if you don't know who I am, which is probably likely, I am an American who is clinically diagnosed with Asperger's syndrome, or as it's now known as of recent times, ASD level 1. Tomorrow is a very scary day for someone with my kind of brain. Tomorrow is the hearing of RFK Jr., who has perpetuated the false narrative that people like me are the result of a vaccine. The problem with this is that not only did this narrative start from a flawed study from a man named Andrew Wakefield who got his license revoked due to unethical conduction of the study, including mistreating the children that were involved in this study. But it also perpetuates a very harmful narrative for someone like me that I am defective because of a vaccine. When there's so much studies that are replicated that show that autism is hereditary. The part that scares me even more is that this will bring further stigma to people diagnosed with autism. For those of you who don't know, America has had a rough history of their treatment of people with autism. This includes, but not limited to, forcing us to be locked up in an asylum if we were diagnosed with it, and forced sterilization. Some people even now are trying to get rid of us. There are some people that are trying to fund for prenatal scanning of autism just so that they could offer up an abortion. Others are trying to find a cure for my problem. But I don't want to be cured. There is nothing wrong with how my mind works. I just see things a little bit differently than a non-autistic person. And let's just face it, without autistic people, we wouldn't have half of the discoveries that we have today, including Albert Einstein's theory of relativity. And even though I've lost a lot of respect for this man, I do need to give credit to Elon Musk's inventions. We've done many contributions to the world, and yet it seems like people are still refusing to value us, and are even going as far as to try and breed us out because they see a problem with a supposed increase in autism cases. And let me debunk their little theory of it being vaccines right now, just because they're citing the increase in autism. There is more research now than there were 60 years ago, even 20 years ago. I'm a late diagnosed autistic, and it took a while for me to get diagnosed because we had this very bizarre doctor that said, "Oh, she's too smart to be autistic." I'm not joking, that actually happened, and then my mom looked at the doctor and said, "Oh, I didn't say that she wasn't smart. I just said she might be autistic." Cut to a year ago, and I finally figured myself out. Another reason why it has increased as far as the visibility of autism is, once again, if I existed around the time of the 1950s or 60s, and they found out that I had an autism diagnosis, I would have been locked up in an asylum. And I think the part that's most upsetting about this is that my own father doesn't have my back in this. He takes RFK's word as gospel, which makes no sense to me since he has no experience in the medical field or health field whatsoever. Even when I had voiced my concerns to him, he used the same recycled talking points as to, well, why is there an increase in autism? And I remember as soon as I heard that come out of his mouth, I honestly felt betrayed. Because that means that he has a problem with more people like me being in the world. That was heavily implied. I don't know if that's what he meant for sure. However, it still heavily implies that there's something wrong with me and other people existing. And I've had moments where I actually cried about my concerns to him, and he still didn't listen. So yeah, I'm basically doing stuff in the behind the scenes on my own. I've already written to my senators, and then with the recent news of J.D. Vance being a tiebreaker for the Senate, I also wrote a letter to him just in case. I know that probably sounds nuts, but this is important to me. So, I kind of talked about this in my previous video, but this is when I have a request for any autistic American watching this. Please, right now, contact your senators through email, telling them about how you don't feel safe with RFK Jr. being in charge of Health and Human Services. And for good measure, include citations involving the lack of correlation between vaccines and autism. Because tomorrow is the hearing, and I'd rather talk about this now than possibly being one of the very few people that know about this option and to fail. And if you're a non-autistic person that still cares about us, could you please do the same too? I would really like it if you did. Good luck out there.